So what is the Main Street Program? The Main Street Program goes back to 1980, and that was a time in American history when many of our downtown districts were in trouble economically. There were changes in how people lived, in how people got around, in where people shopped, and a lot of our downtown districts had not been able to adapt and keep up. So consequently, we were seeing vacancies, we were seeing businesses struggling, and we were seeing property owners unable to maintain their historic buildings. So this was a concern to historic preservationists, and the National Trust for Historic Preservation, which is a congressionally chartered nonprofit dating to the 1950s, established a pilot program to develop a model for revitalizing commercial districts across the U.S., whether it was in a small town or in an urban neighborhood. If you think about downtown districts, they can be fairly complicated places. They're combinations of historic buildings, of public spaces, of streets, of on-street parking, perhaps of plazas, many different owners, different uses, whether it's offices, shops, housing. Earlier efforts to modernize downtown districts had focused on modernizing facades through things like aluminum siding, for example, or tearing down buildings for creation of surface parking, which really didn't help those districts keep up with modern times. If people didn't want to be there to begin with, adding that parking didn't necessarily draw them in. So the National Trust was looking for a model that worked. Why is it important to community to revitalize a downtown? Downtowns have traditionally been the centers of our community and of commerce. Today, they're the way a town often presents itself to the outside world. When you come to a town, you often go to the downtown to get a sense of what it has to offer, whether you're coming as a visitor or as a prospective employer. They create a sense of place. They're really what makes a community unique. It tells stories of that community's history. A lot of our new development, while functional, doesn't have that uniqueness. And it's also important to recognize downtowns can be an economic driver. They're often locations for entrepreneurs and diverse local businesses. And also heritage tourism is becoming increasingly important. A 2005 Colorado Tourism Survey found that historic downtowns are second only to our natural scenery in drawing overnight visitors. So that's pretty impressive for a state like Colorado. Also, downtowns are increasingly being recognized as being environmentally and fiscally sustainable, because by revitalizing a downtown, we're reutilizing existing buildings, existing road infrastructure, water, sewer, etc., that's already been built. And also, downtowns are critical in attracting people, in retaining youth in your community, and attracting professionals, and attracting new residents, whether it's entrepreneurs or retirees or whoever happens to be making your community home. So how does Main Street work? Main Street is an asset-based model for community and economic revitalization, and it's based in historic preservation. It builds on the underlying unique assets and identity of your community, and that includes your built or natural history. It includes your cultural history and your traditions and events and products of your area, and it includes your community's human assets, the independent business owners, the entrepreneurs, the property owners, your residents, stakeholders throughout the community. Main Street is an incremental approach. From the Main Street point of view, you can't simply do a streetscape project and then think you're done and that the downtown will take care of itself. But being a complex place, the downtown requires ongoing management, and Main Street emphasizes quality and authenticity in all of the steps that you take to revitalize your downtown. So the Main Street model is based in a comprehensive 4-point approach to downtown revitalization. Those 4 points are organization, design, promotion, and economic restructuring. Organization is really the foundation. It's about volunteers, it's about fundraising, it's about partnerships, it's about the Main Street staff, and activities done by the organization committee or in the organization point include recruiting, training, and thanking volunteers. For example, the Brush Chamber Main Street manages a citywide volunteer recognition program that includes an annual banquet for volunteers in organizations across the community, as well as recognizing a volunteer of the month and a volunteer of the year. And that's really critical to keeping people involved, keeping people interested, and not burning out people. Also, the organization point emphasizes that the board and committee members are ambassadors of the program. Main Street is based in its volunteers, and those volunteers need to represent the benefits of the program to the community. For example, again, an example from Brush here in Colorado, but every member of that Chamber Main Street is visited at least once every 3 years by one of the board members and gets to communicate what they get out of Main Street, what they'd like to see, and it keeps the program relevant to its members. The organization committee also reaches out to partner organizations, whether that's historical societies or chambers of commerce, to make sure that the community is working together towards common goals. And the organization of a Main Street varies broadly from 501c3, 4 or 6 organizations to downtown development authorities to chamber Main Street partnerships to even being part of a city in some cases. The second point, design, addresses the physical character of the district. And that deals with aesthetics, but it also deals with the functional aspects of the district. A Main Street may start out simply with beautification programs, flower pots, working on cleanliness or signage, to broader initiatives such as helping to rehabilitate historic buildings, to bring in new construction, new spaces for business and residents, to improvements in the streetscape, for example, that help identify the perception of the district.